We scroll past war, injustice, and grief, and then we laugh at a video about a cat with anxiety. It's not that we don't care, it's that caring hurts, and maybe we're just tired. People often say that this generation is too soft, too fragile, too emotionally unstable.
There's no way some of these younger Gen Z people could weather such a storm without quitting.
So young people are not just dealing with a rocky economy, they are experiencing permanent psychological damage.
This young generation seems less capable to deal with stress than previous generations. That is true.
Maybe we're not too fragile. Maybe it's just that we've had to build barriers to be able to confront this never ending news cycle. So today on Rethink, we're asking, is empathy dying or is empathy evolving? Have you ever felt like you didn't care enough for a certain subject, or felt bad because you felt nothing when you feel like you should have felt something? It's not that you're broken, it's just that you're part of this new moment. This actually makes me think about something that I guess I had never noticed before, but like you did mention a bit that before, like they were exposed to like one big traumatic event or tragedy a year, as opposed to us where we're exposed to that every single day. When you go on social media, you can literally see every single day everything that's happening all over the world. And if you were to let that kind of impact you the same way, I feel like there would just be no way to actually have at some point there'd just be no empathy left to give out. It's not that you don't care, it's just that you don't really, I mean, first of all, you feel powerless. At least that's how I feel. I feel kind of powerless when I see things like that on social media and there's no way to actually help and contribute to a solution. And, you know, back in the day, when they were watching the news, you'd have like one segment about, this is happening in this country, and they'd actually talk about it, debate about it, give propose solutions, talk about politics, talk about the causes and stuff, as opposed to today where you're just literally exposed to, I mean, you can see a post about children getting burnt in, I don't know, Gaza or something. And the discourse is just not the same. So I feel like finding a proper solution and how to feel empathy and constantly try to find the solution is kind of delicate and very complicated.
Yeah, it's really hard. I was seeing this LinkedIn post. I think I showed you. It was saying like empathy isn't just caring for somebody else. It's trying to understand their feelings, trying to put yourself in their shoes. And I think that's the one that clicked for me. It's impossible to put yourself in a million people's shoes. I can't at the same time be dancing with somebody on TikTok and one scroll after see a soldier in Ukraine, because that was the whole thing, like soldiers posting. And I just feel like people, like we were saying, people before, since they were only exposed to one thing, they could go out to the streets, have time to process, understand it, think about it, talk to people, and it would become a whole thing that you can feel compassion about. You can understand and put yourself in their situation. But when it's 1,000 things, you only have time to process any of it. And I think part of compassion is sitting down with it and trying to think, trying to understand all the layers within it. The other day, making research for this video, I told you I landed in the wrong Reddit thread, and a story that shocked me was this. I'm not gonna enter the details, but it was this woman that had been that got raped. A guy entered her house, raped her. Her marriage. Her husband was at work, comes back home, sees this happen. He probably thinks he's cheating on her. Leaves. She faints while the guy's raping her, and when she wakes up, nobody's there.
But wait, he went in he saw it happen? He went in the room or
I think
he noticed?
From what I understood and what I was reading, he entered the house and they were in the living room, and so he saw that she was having sex with another man. I mean, she wasn't. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and immediately left.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, she explains the situation, how she was traumatized, the guy blocked her, and then she goes live with her brother because she's so scared. And one day, a few weeks later, the guy comes back knocking at the door, and he's like, "Oh, I'm really sorry. I think I know what happened now." Crying, sobbing, trying to talk to her. And this is just an example. And a few minutes later, I opened TikTok because I wanted to do research and try to find something on empathy, and I just found some random cow like mooing, and it was like weird because I wanted to feel something for the Reddit thread that I had just read, but I didn't know how to feel about it because it was so distant. And I think that's part of why were maybe not losing empathy, but why it's harder for us. It's because it's so distant. Usually when we see things, it's through our computers, through our phones, and we can't really put ourselves in their position.
Yeah. Also, like to add on to that, like on social media, specifically to what Jose mentioned, I feel like if you're constantly like seeing those things, I know that at some point, like for me, it becomes draining. Like you look at it, and like if you truly want to be empathetic, it takes like part of your energy to feel those emotions, and you carry that throughout your day. And so at some point, it's like I kind of want to avoid social media because it's almost even impossible to run away from it. Like, I'm not saying that you should run away from it, but like sometimes maybe you just want to go and text your friend on an app or something, and inevitably you find things like that. And so I think at some point, and even something that you mentioned earlier, we do kind of start building this maybe
Wall,
even
kind of.
this wall, this layer, this subconscious protection where we grow to be apathetic because that's how we have to deal with seeing constant change. And also about what you mentioned about like powerlessness, it's true that like you see so many things, and like you want to help, but then like you don't know if you're actually donating to the right organization. So many things happen like that. Like we saw with the BLM movement, like what happened with the funds that were used for that movement. And that was a lot of money that people gave, hard-earned money for things that we thought were necessary. And so yeah, there's that that like want to be empathetic, but then you don't know what that actually results in. It's draining. And also like you just see the second point, sorry, that I wanted to make is that people also then kind of use it for engagement, or at some point it just doesn't feel like authentic.
Yeah.
Like I remember I used to be sometimes on Instagram and stuff, and a reel, and it would start like positive, and after like 3 seconds, you should, instead of this, you should be watching blah 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 for Gaza, and it's like trapping you into watching something that maybe you're not ready to watch in that moment, you know. And yeah, so at some point it gets dangerous, and our empathy and our attention is also being used in a negative manner.
Go ahead.
If I'm being completely honest, I kind of try to avoid, unless I'm specifically looking into a subject and trying to get informed and you know, trying to understand what's happening. I try to avoid that type of content when I'm on like Instagram or TikTok, because I just feel super bad every time I watch it. And because of that feeling of powerlessness, I'd rather, it's not that I'm ignoring the problem and pretending it doesn't exist. It's because I'm super conscious about it that I actually feel bad and kind of try to avoid watching it. So I don't know if I should feel guilty for that, or technically it is me being empathetic in a different type of way. Yeah.
It's evolving, I guess.
So I guess that's kind of what confuses me sometimes about that.
What I was going to ask about that is, like, often people say that, like I was saying, Gen Z is more fragile, but to a certain extent, I feel like we feel more, and that's why we feel less, if that makes sense. Like, with all the movements that there are, oh my God, my words, but all the protests and just trying to make things better for everybody in general, there's so many causes, and I feel like our generation is very engaged in that. While, I mean, I don't know, but I don't know if the previous generation was so engaged. And so I guess my question is, paradoxically, are we more empathetic than before?
I don't think so. I feel like we are exposed too much more, and the consequence of that is that we became less empathetic or authentically empathetic. Because right now we're also talking about social media, but I'm not sure how like actually empathetic Gen Z is in real life.
Really?
You know? Yeah, like I look at like my
Damn.
millennials and my parents' generation, like a super small example, but a very big difference. And I'm not sure exactly if it's about generations, but I went to the consulate to take care of my passport, and like when you see someone in a small space, when you're polite and stuff like that, you say, "Oh, good morning, how are you," and stuff like that, and sometimes I really just say good morning and that's it because it's like the minimum polite. But my mom, I mean, after it's also my mom, but I feel like my aunties and my uncles and stuff like that, they kind of directly start making conversation and being like empathetic with people. Like, oh, like, goddamn, this line is taking so long. Blah, blah, blah. They make conversation. I feel like they actually build genuine connections, and that also leads to being more empathetic within each other. But Gen Z, I feel like I
Because
don't
it's
know.
all behind a screen.
Yeah.
Often the interactions are different, and you can't really verify the authenticity, the intentions behind, what's being said or what's being spread.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying. I feel like we're definitely in like a transition phase where, I mean, you were saying there's so many causes and
Yeah.
so many. I don't know if we're more empathetic. That would
We could be
that's
laying
probably what
ourselves
I
too
would
thin, maybe.
maybe. I would say we're more empathetic because we expect everyone to have rights and we expect everyone to be able to do what they want, and we defend people and we fight for causes and stuff like that. But is it just an effect of like uh, that's the norm today, like everyone should be able to do what they want, or are they really like do they truly as a person
Feel for
feel
it. Yeah.
feel that
Feel
way?
for the.
I mean, that's gonna be the next segment. Stick around. But but one example that I constantly have in mind is that interaction we had in the metro, and what you said to me kind of stuck. It was we were getting into the metro, and this old lady couldn't, like, her pass wasn't working,
Mm.
and so Andy kind of opened it for her and let her come with him.
I went through the exit. You know when you put your hand in the
Yeah.
exit,
Yeah.
it opens, yeah.
purge and stuff. And yeah, like, we didn't have our headphones, we weren't listening to music, and the lady just started talking to us. We started making small talk. Just, it was a little cute interaction, right?
Mm.
And I feel like just in the metro, if you look at it, everybody has their headphones.
Oh yeah.
And so even in real life, we're still connected to the internet, which creates a certain barrier with other people. And I feel like that could be a cause, because even when you're with people, you're not really with them.
Bro,
Yeah.
life is a freaking episode of Black Mirror, bro.
I swear, bro.
Like we watch those episodes and we're like, oh,
Yeah,
this
that's
is
crazy.
crazy. Oh,
Yeah.
this would never happen in real life. Like, take a second, like when you're in the metro, and just look at everyone,
Everybody.
bro. It's like, the only noise is the freaking metro walking.
Yeah.
Like,
I can't judge
headphones on.
them. I do the same thing, honestly.
Sometimes, bro, honestly, I get super tired. Right now, I freaking hate AirPods because I have them on so often that ever so often I'm just so sick of it. Like, I
Yeah, that
feel
happens to me. Yeah.
the weird object in my ears, the unnatural thing in my ears, and I feel like eventually we're gonna fucking evolve to always need AirPods or something in our
Yo,
ears, bro.
crazy.
It's-
I mean,
they
low key, old people, that's what they use.
not only that's what they use, but I don't know if you saw there's a feature now on AirPods where it's like conversation. And there's
Yeah.
that like chronic AirPod
that's
user
scary.
that you can see him at
Yeah,
any point in the
that
day.
is
You won't
scary.
take it off.
He won't take it off. And so now it's like if you start speaking to somebody, it automatically tunes down the music so you can have a
Bro,
conversation.
you know how crazy that is? Just take them off. And even out of respect, bro. The
Yeah.
other day,
Yeah.
I was at the office and everybody was just with their headphones working, focused. And so I put mine too. And somebody came to talk to me. I just took them off and spoke to the person.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I hate it when people are like, I'm talking to you and you're with your headphones. Sure, it's transparency mode, but like, no, just
I don't know what
Let's
she's doing.
talk.
I don't know what
Yeah.
you're hearing. I don't know what's going on.
But, yeah,
yeah.
that to me is just very weird. And I guess it is a Black Mirror episode, low-key.
And I don't know what even the solution to that is. How is this? I think we're done, bro. We're done, bro. As a species, we're just over, bro.
But yeah, going back to like the example that you gave, like I did the trick, and after she saw that I did it, and she wasn't able to get the sensor, so I put my hand up again and opened it for
Oh
her.
no, he had the tripod.
stick,
Yeah, the stick.
Oh, okay.
And she goes, "Oh, you taught me a new trick. I didn't know we could do that." And it's just like little things like that.
Yeah.
And after, I'm never gonna see that woman like again in my life.
But it was
just
a
like,
moment you shared.
yeah, sharing that little moment. I do think that that's like also what makes the human experience just that more fun, you know. And
Like,
I want to keep some things for the rest
yeah,
of the podcast.
we're
but-
gonna switch up. Let's switch the segment really quick, but I guess that's part of what empathy is. Sometimes you think about it as such a big thing. I need to feel. I need to be like super vocal about this cause, but it's really little things.
Yeah.
Just like you caring enough to open it for the lady and like have
I
a
saw
little
in my
moment.
position, if I couldn't open the
Yeah,
thing, I already
you'd
passed
want
my
someone to help, yeah.
Exactly. And so sometimes we like give it such a big meaning when it's just a mundane thing, you know?
Yeah, just a little gesture that can make somebody else's day.
But yeah, and so to transition into the next segment, there's this little research that I found. I mean, two things that I found, saying that there's this thing called compassion fatigue, and I guess it's the whole point of the video, right? It's when you consume so much that you pretty much get numb to it, and so it's not just something we randomly feel; it's something that has been searched. And in 2024, a study found that excessive social media usage among Gen Z leads to overstimulating and superficial social interactions. And so the next segment is empathy used to mean showing up, sitting with somebody, listening to them. But today it just means posting a random square in a random app about a random topic. We're expected to care about everything very intensely and very publicly. And if you don't, people make you feel like you don't care at all. But when caring becomes an act, is it really empathy?
So to
You
start,
tell him, Jose.
No. I think a question I have is, what do you guys think of like celebrities that are pressured into reposting about
good one.
you know what's going on with these wars, and you know, often fans put pressure because you're posting your concert and blah blah blah, but you're not talking about this, you're not talking about that. Do you think as a celebrity you have the responsibility to talk about these subjects and to expose them, or would that kind of be like forcing and not necessarily truly being empathetic?
Well, I think first, we've mentioned it in previous episodes, but people put celebrities like on a pedestal when it's not their job. Like a singer, yeah, he can maybe briefly mention like a cause that he's actually researched about and stuff like that. But if he doesn't feel comfortable enough to actually like promote an organization because he doesn't feel like he masters the subject enough, you pressuring him or her to post it then just becomes fake. It's just because you want to say, oh yeah, the people that I follow are just as empathetic as I am.
And even that, like, I feel like a celebrity feels forced to have a side, and you're not really letting people just take their own side and have their own side.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think that's the solution. Pressuring somebody into agreeing with you
Yeah.
or posting it.
And
I guess,
sorry.
I guess what people that do that want is just, you have millions of followers, and millions of people will see it. I guess it's not really trying to convince the celebrity itself that, oh, my cause is right.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I guess I get it. You're trying to
Trying to get the word
Just
out.
give
there.
trying to get the
exposure,
word
yeah.
out. But still, I feel like it's very, like, sometimes I just feel like it's very shallow from the celebrity. And even if we do it or see it in a smaller scale, like even with the BLM movement, like everybody was posting BLM or whatever whatever the hashtags were, I forgot, but everybody was posting it. And so I know that.
You forgot the hashtags?
What was the hashtag?
Are you? Do you not feel for the black people that are suffering, that
You know
have
what-
their rights
do you
taken
know what
away
the
from
BLM
them?
did?
Of course, I know what the BLM did, but we're not gonna get into that right now, though.
And so, no, my whole point with this is just a lot of people posted it when I know that a lot of people didn't necessarily, not that they didn't care, but
Nah. I got two things to say.
Go.
First, yeah, it's very like you're getting these just because a celebrity first isn't posting about it doesn't actually mean that they're not contributing to the thing. Like a lot of them donate like anonymously and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So just because they're not posting doesn't mean they're not doing anything for the cause. And second, y'all, okay, I'm looking at you, okay, posting all these causes, blah blah blah. I ask a question. Oh, where is Gaza?
Damn.
You don't know the
Hey,
answer.
you know what the worst part is? People don't do their research, bro.
That's what I'm
Everybody-
saying. You're
everybody wants
posting
to
about
post.
like these things, but after you behind it, I ask you. I have questions like, "Oh, I'm actually intrigued. What is your point of view on this subject? Like, can you teach me?" Blah blah blah.
It's
They
bad.
know nothing about it. So but there are many people that are just posting because you feel a certain social pressure to post. If it's to do that, my guy, don't post. Like you can just donate. I don't know. Ask your friends about it. Blah blah blah. It's all good. Okay, you don't need a fake shit.
You know, there's actually like I did research.
Hey, I
for
feel
this
like a
video,
lot of
but-
people would actually be against you on that point, though.
What? Which
I
one?
get what you're saying. No, I feel like some people would rather just have the exposure, even if you don't necessarily know about the topic. You know, the type of people that pressure you to have like to pick a side and to pick whatever.
Sure, but
I'm not
that's-
saying it's right.
Yeah,
I'm saying I don't think everybody would agree with that.
No, but I feel like that's stupid on a personal. No, wait. No, nothing.
join the team,
it's, it's not stupid. I'm not here to judge, but it's a bit stupid. Like, just in the sense, or like in a personal level, like I get the person that's trying to pressure. You've made up your mind. You have your arguments, and you want other people to
convictions,
post
yeah.
it. That makes sense. Like on a personal level, that makes sense. But I'm saying you being pressured into posting something, you're not making up your own mind. Just figure out what your side is, even if it's not what most people agree with. Figure it out for yourself. Like read about it, inform yourself. Don't just post things out there for no reason. Like all I'm saying is just don't be a sheep. Don't follow the wave, because the wave sometimes isn't going the right direction. Damn, I said something deep.
I'm glad you fucked it up.
Yeah, and so that kind of pissed me off with, I mean, not with the BLM movement, but with all these movements that came after. Just even with George Floyd, just people posting it, you're not even doing your research.
Yeah.
That personally pisses me off. But yeah, I think you had something to say about it though.
No, I mean that generally leads us like back to I guess performance.
Yeah.
Like this way that we're just kind of putting on like this facade that we actually care and stuff.
One thing that I was thinking, one thing that I found is that most platforms and most like news outlets, they don't really care about how you feel about a topic. They don't care about your empathy, if you understand it, if you're compassionate. All they want is viewership. And that is the same reality for social media. People just want likes, they just want views. And so the way they put the content out there, so I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not necessarily the individual's fault, because the way that we consume our news, even by professional and legit news channels, is just to get your engagement and your interaction. So they should just put the information that sounds more interesting, the extremes, the stuff that is interesting to read. And so me as a person reading that, I only care about that stuff, right? Because that's what they're telling me.
Yeah.
And so I feel like once again that creates a very fake and a very fake society. Even with the war in Ukraine, I had friends from Ukraine, and even though I wanted to say I do feel for them. They had to leave their country. I do feel for them, but even though I wanted to say, oh, I understand you, I feel you, I really don't, because even when I go do my research, and it sounds hypocritical because I was telling people to do their research, but even when you do your research, it's very limited. Unless you actually like go onto articles and super serious stuff, which most people realistically won't do. Yeah, it's still superficial even when I want to care for my friends.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess empathy, you can never 100% feel what the other person feels. That's impossible.
Yeah.
But your point is like you can maybe begin to understand
Exactly, yeah.
where they're coming from. And also I think like the other superpower of empathy is, for example, like when the beginning of the war between Ukraine and Russia started, right?
Yeah.
Like there was many people, which rightly so, were defending 100% the Ukraine. But then that also led to them hating on Russians, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that that was also wrong, because if you truly have empathy, there are also many people in Russia that aren't okay with how
Yeah,
the
how
government
things are going.
decided to position themselves. And so it's also having empathy for those people. Imagine like your country is now in danger because like the higher institutions decided to do something that you're not okay with it. You try to speak out against it, you're also in trouble. So when you have empathy, it's like, okay, I can actually understand or begin to understand both sides and understand like the nuance of the actual
And I think
situation.
This
And-
is what
and
this
sorry-
podcast is about. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, but the goal really is to see and to try to understand both sides, not just criticize.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And to add on what you were saying about like news and stuff, Charlemagne the God, he's a radio host. He always says this one line that I think just resumes what we're saying perfectly. He says, "Nobody cares about the truth when the lie is more entertaining."
Yeah.
And it's like it's
true, though.
facts. That's actually just what happens constantly online, but also like in real life. That's why gossip and rumors spread way faster, because people add their little sauce to it, and then it spreads like wildfire.
Yeah. That
But the point you made about Russians is so real, though. I know to
the way you said it. What you made about Russians so real though.
no, because like the perception people often have of all Russians,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
is kind of overshadowed by the bad things. And obviously, it's bad to generalize and assume that all Russians are pro-war and
Yeah.
all Russians are bad. And it's definitely important to actually have empathy and try to look into the nuances in both sides, as opposed to just picking one and, you know, being stubborn and sticking to that goal for, you know, the whole thing.
Yeah. And like just to add on to this whole thing, it's like what I was saying about media, even like with influencers, the people that we supposedly look up to, like when they F up, when they do something wrong, what do they do? Apology video, apology, whatever. When really they're only apologizing because they got caught.
Yeah.
That's what we say when people achieve, but it's true. And they're only apologizing because they got caught, and people are pressuring them into realizing or seeing that they effed up. And so
I think that was before with cancel culture.
even Diddy did it like a month ago or 2 months
Diddy's
ago.
guilty, man.
I know, but that's what
He apologized.
Yeah,
You better apologize.
Does
but
he really think he's wrong?
yeah. That's
Would he not do
bro,
it again?
he's just trying to get less time. That's not a question of
that's my
empathy.
point. That's my point.
No, but I think before people felt pressured because of cancel culture, like their businesses, a lot of things were like it did just depend on what
Cancel
your public
culture is not
opinion
done.
and-
It's not done.
I think it's bro. Now what you see on social media before nowhere they receive. I'm partly okay with it. Like I think that there are a lot of celebrities, comedians, whatever that like before they couldn't make maybe the jokes they wanted. They couldn't talk about the things they wanted because they felt like they would get canceled because of a certain pressure. And people nowadays it's like
It's a bit better. I'll give you
Yeah.
that.
like I'll just say what I want, and after if you like it, if you don't like it, that's up to you. But
Yeah.
you can't take somebody's right to speak about a subject, no matter how like offended or how much you dislike it. You know?
I think it's a bit better. But I think cancel culture is never really gonna go away now that we have social media.
Too
But
easy.
because like we went through like a transition period where anything touchy was like kind of off limits. As soon as you did something bad, you'd like be
Canceled.
canceled
Career over.
completely. I feel like you still have to not necessarily be careful, but if it is actually something bad, like objectively, no matter what, you're gonna go down.
But that's how it should be. But before cancel culture was for things that like if somebody genuinely made a mistake, right? Because some apology videos, some may be performative, but others it's like okay, maybe they genuinely like fucked up, you know, and they just weren't aware of a certain subject or whatever, and then they did more research and they came out and apologized like human beings, and they just kept it moving. I would rather somebody do that than like we just cancel them and then you don't even give that person the chance
Yeah.
to like learn from their mistakes, because
Mm.
that's not a type of society that I would
guess-
want to be in.
You're right. I guess my only point is just like we know a lot of them fake it just because they want to get their views back, they want to get stuff back. And so as a society, when we see that, we normalize it. But I guess my point is, how can we improve on it? How can we bring it's not dead, but how can we bring empathy back to what it was to the for the older generation? And that's the next segment.
Empathy isn't dead, it's just exhausted. And maybe what we need isn't to feel more, but to feel more intentionally. Empathy also isn't instant, it takes effort, attention, and time. And if you want to fix it, we need to slow down and show up. I don't know if you guys remember, but in the last episode when we talked about morality, well, I don't know when we're going to post that episode, but there's an episode where we talk about morality. And I had mentioned this book called The Anxious Generation. The author went on to the podcast of Trevor Noah, What Now? And so, like, once again, he essentially analyzed what social media and what screen specifically did to Gen Z, right? And like one of the things he mentions, first he mentions like the different impacts, right, on like young boys and young girls. And one of the main differences was that young boys, like our first screens sometimes were like video games, right?
Yeah.
And so that actually was better for us because like even though it's a screen, for example, Fortnite and stuff like that, you're still speaking. It's like still a group activity where we're laughing together, we're having conversations and stuff like that. While girls, when they had screens, first it led like to more comparisons and to much more isolated groups where they would just DM and they wouldn't have like social gatherings. And so then like Trevor, he goes on and he tells like this anecdote of when he was in New York and how like he saw this generation of young kids, like they closed off a road, like they put like little rocks. I think it was like a Saturday morning or something, and the cars couldn't pass by, and they would just like play football or baseball or whatever, running around. And after when the car would pass by, the kids would be like car, and they would take the little rocks, and the car would pass, and then they would put it back to replay. And this is like, I guess, millennial parents or maybe a bit older trying to fix what happened essentially to our generation or just a bit after. I guess it would be like end of Gen Alpha, because them, like they had iPads, you would go to the park, like kids didn't actually talk to each other. I had never even thought of that, but it's like, it's really like you go to the park, your kid plays basically almost alone or you're playing with him, but it shouldn't be like that. Like kids should play with each other. They should get hurt. They should fall, because that's generally how they have to learn. And also that builds empathy. Like
How
when
so?
you see, because essentially it's all these social skills that you're learning. Like when you're playing basketball together as a friend, and that's where your friend gets hit with a ball in the face and he falls and gets hurt, you look at that, you're like, oh my God, like we need to help him. And that builds like this feeling of, okay, us as a society, us as friends, we need to make sure that our group is safe, our group is good.
I have a quote that connects to this. Don't forget what you're saying. Is if you feel pain, you're alive. If you feel other people's pain, you're a human being.
Yeah.
And I guess it really connects with what you're saying. Like you as a kid, when you're with your dad, you hurt yourself. Hey, I'm feeling my own pain. When you're with your friends, you see somebody like you get hurt. You're like, oh, that could have been me.
Yeah.
And it builds up that empathy or that feeling for others. But yeah, go ahead.
And also, that empathy, that responsibility. And I think a lot of our generation and like Gen Z, and I'm even more worried about Gen Alpha, like I think to fix and to rebuild that empathy, we really need to find a way to make sure that people are living like humans. Like I love technology. I'm a tech savvy guy. I love what technology can bring to the world, but everything also has like its downside, it's negative, and we really need to try to limit that, or else we're gonna grow up in a world where people basically don't talk to each other. They're anxious when they speak to people. They're insecure, and that's not a world where I want to live in. Like. Yeah. I want my kids or hopefully like my little cousins to go out in the streets until like, I don't know, 10 p.m. and still feel safe. And I know that they're having a good time. And if anything happens, that I know that my neighbor might be close by and that I trust them enough that he will help my son or my daughter, you know? And that's the world that I would rather live in.
Right now, things are not going in the right direction. Even with like working from home and stuff like that, human interactions are just going to keep going down and keep getting worse. So it's definitely super important to kind of find a solution to that.
What I saw about an article, and I'll put everything down below, it's what you were saying, it links to it. Like kids nowadays, like, they have a harder time expressing their emotions. Like, they stick to very basic words. I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm happy. And that's also because of that. If you don't know how to express yourself, people can't really feel for you.
Yeah.
And so I guess, like, to come up with not a solution, but like to come up with little steps that we could take. What do you think could be elements of that?
First, I think there's a growing consciousness of like we're realizing, okay, screens as much as they are good for us, they're also things that we need to learn how to limit. And even like a lot of Gen Zs, like apparently some are trying to go back to flip phones, like like really I give my phone to a child, but it's just so I can call him, like nothing else. And the second part is learning to be disconnected. Like I don't know if you guys saw, but there was a blackout like in Portugal and in Spain and stuff.
People
And
panicked.
people panicked real hard. But like my brother at night, he called us like just to make sure that everything was good, and he was like, it was actually a good experience. Like I saw people in the street like helping each other, like being nice, and honestly just enjoying the day. People went to the park and played cards because they couldn't work anymore, and like he just said it felt so good, and we had forgot about it. And so I don't know if you saw it, but in Paris, I'm not sure.
I saw it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know what
It's a
Saturday it
blackout
is,
day.
but they
Yeah.
want to do like a blackout day where everybody will just go to the park, no
No
screens,
phones,
no
no
phones,
nothing.
no nothing allowed, and you just bring cards
I
and a
actually
ball,
would kind of want
and
to
you
go.
would play. And I think like if we just start having more of those experiences, like imagine like on Sunday, like no screens allowed, like I don't know, we would just turn off the internet
And
in
we
the
just-
country,
yeah.
and you just have to connect with people. I think
That's
stuff like
nice. I
that
like
would be
that.
so good,
And even on the other way around, we should have moments, I think, as people, as individuals, where we just sit down and accept our feelings. Because I feel like social media and internet and our phones, what they do is they help us repress our feelings. We get distracted with other things. And if we just sit down at times and let our feelings come out, think about it, feel it, I think you need to do that. Because
Yeah.
if you don't know what it feels like to be sad, or you suppress it, how can you feel for somebody else that is sad?
For sure.
And
I think like just going back to the subject of like kids not being as empathetic or knowing how to express their feelings, just to kind of try to find a solution to that. I think that definitely starts from like home. Just the way you educate your kids today, like a lot of parents will just give them the phone because they're being annoying and they'll let them
They're not
freaking
patient.
stay on their phone for 10 hours in a row.
there should be a balance with tech. Yeah.
Exactly. Definitely find a balance, limited times where you should be able to use it, times where you should be able to go out and hang out with your friends, and just kind of find a balance with tech, because right now, if things keep going the way they are, I mean, it'll just never improve.
And even like what kids consume on the internet, that's a whole
they-
other topic.
oof.
But yeah. But yeah, I guess my personal thing and last thing is I think we should have more classes on like emotional intelligence. We focus a lot on like hard skills and you have to be good at math, good at whatever, but we forget and overlook this one skill that makes us human and that makes us interact in a society. That's why humans, we live in societies.
Yeah.
And we overlook that in schools and in households.
I mean, I don't think
So,
it's that
yeah.
we overlook it. I think it's like just a new phenomenon that
Yeah, that's true.
before it would naturally come over time. Like you'd have to interact with people for work and for different things. And
Yeah,
today,
That's what I like. I don't think there can actually be a class like on. Of course, you can have maybe courses that
That's what I
will
was gonna
help
ask.
you have
Do you
more
learn it or
awareness.
do you live it?
But I think it's our best thing as humans. Like he was in this book. He was also analyzing like the difference between a Zoom call and when you have it in real life. There's so many things that our brain just can't catch through a screen. No, but it's true. Like we have so many little micro expressions that the eye can only catch while you're
Yeah.
here. Like how you're moving your hand, how you position things, even just your smell. Like it's something that we don't notice on a conscious level, but you can smell fear. Like if you get scared, even if maybe you might not express it in your face, like I can sense that, and you can't sense that through a screen.
That's
So
true.
I think like maybe instead of like a class on emotional intelligence, it's just like, okay, on the playground, no phones allowed. Let's
Yeah,
just
let's
get to
live.
play.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And just, I guess, to finish it up, don't forget that empathy, like we were saying, isn't this massive thing. It's something you do on your daily life. And to finish it up, I have this little list that kind of exemplifies or says what I'm trying to say, and is what people think empathy is. feeling sorry for someone, that's pity. What empathy actually is you'll have it on the screen, but sensing other people's emotions, imagining how somebody else is feeling, imagine what someone is thinking, mirroring somebody else's feelings. All these little elements, they're much more, you'll see it, and make you human and make you connect with somebody else. So go out there and
Rethink.
rethink. Just, hey,
Sir.
talk to other people, man. Damn.